A wave of grief has swept through both Colombia and Mexico after the devastating news that Colombian rapper Baron Sanchez, widely known by his stage name bking, has been found dead following his mysterious disappearance in Mexico while on tour. For many, this was not just another tragic story of violence in Latin America. It was a brutal reminder of the fragile lives of artists who travel abroad to share their music and connect with fans, only to find themselves caught in a nightmare far from home. The announcement from Mexican prosecutors on Monday confirmed what many had feared since his sudden disappearance: that bking's life had been cut short in a foreign land where his talent had brought him, but where danger ultimately claimed him. Bking, a rising star whose music blended raw street narratives with the hope and pride of Colombian youth, vanished on September 16 alongside his close friend and tour partner, Colombian DJ Jorge Herrera, who performed under the stage name Regio. The two had been staying in Mexico City for a series of performances meant to expand their reach across Latin America, building bridges between Colombian rap and Mexico's growing hip-hop culture. According to their manager, Juan Camilo Gallego, the pair had spent that morning at a gym in one of Mexico City's upscale neighborhoods, the kind of area where tourists and visiting musicians often feel relatively safe, but they never made it back. Their absence immediately raised alarm bells among those who knew them, especially because their phones went silent and messages to them went unanswered, which was unusual for both men. They had a concert planned, meetings with fans lined up, and a busy schedule ahead. Suddenly, everything stopped. Gallego told Colombia's Blue Radio that he initially believed they had been kidnapped. "They told me they were going to have lunch with two people but didn't return any messages thereafter," he recalled. First, the assumption was that this could have been a simple delay, perhaps a casual outing that stretched longer than planned. But as hours turned into a full day with no word, dread began to grow. In a city where kidnappings, though less frequent than in the past, still occur, particularly targeting foreigners, the silence felt ominous. Gallego and the families of both men quickly filed reports with local authorities, hoping that by alerting the police early they might have a better chance at finding the pair alive. The search for answers intensified the following day when Mexican authorities discovered two bodies. On September 17, prosecutors said that one of the bodies bore similarities to Jorge Herrera, though it had yet to be formally identified at the time of their statement. This left a cloud of uncertainty hanging over everyone involved, the kind of unbearable limbo where hope and despair fight for dominance. Then, as days passed, bking's identity was confirmed by his family, who were forced to face the reality no one wanted to accept: that the vibrant 31-year-old artist, who had been on the cusp of an even bigger career, would not be returning to Colombia alive. For fans, the pain was immediate and raw. Bking was more than just a rapper. He was a storyteller, someone who used his music to channel the struggles and triumphs of Colombian life. His lyrics spoke of the streets, of perseverance, of love and betrayal, and of the dream of escaping poverty through art. Losing him meant losing a voice that many felt represented their own struggles. Social media quickly became a shrine of grief, with thousands of posts sharing clips of his performances, lyrics that hit especially hard in light of his death, and heartfelt messages mourning the senseless loss. One fan wrote, "Your music lifted me when I was at my lowest. I can't believe this is how your story ends." The last post on bking's Instagram, dated September 15, only added to the heartbreak. The video showed him in a dressing room, smiling and laughing as he prepared for a concert. There was no sign of fear or distress, no hint that within 48 hours his life would be over. This juxtaposition, of a man alive and full of energy one day and gone the next, has left many struggling to process the tragedy. Mexico's President, Claudia Sheinbaum, addressed the case during a press briefing, saying that the disappearance and deaths of the two Colombians were under active investigation. She assured the public that authorities were committed to finding those responsible, but her words did little to soothe the anguish of the victims' loved ones. For them, justice cannot come quickly enough. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro, known for his outspoken criticism of drug violence and systemic issues in Latin America, wasted no time in reacting. In a statement on X, formerly Twitter, he declared that the two men had been murdered. "They murdered our youth in the United States of Mexico," he wrote, pointedly using Mexico's formal name and emphasizing the shared pain between nations. Petro, who has long opposed what he calls the failure of US-backed anti-drug policies, used the tragedy to highlight the ongoing violence plaguing the region. More young people murdered by an anti-drug policy that is not an anti-drug trafficking policy, he said, arguing that the so-called war on drugs has done little to dismantle the criminal networks profiting from narcotics while leaving countless innocent victims in its wake. This statement struck a chord with many Colombians who feel that Latin America's youth are often the ones paying the price for systemic corruption, organized crime, and ineffective government strategies. Petro's words were not just about bking and Regio clown. They were about an entire generation growing up in a world where artists, activists, and ordinary citizens can be targeted, sometimes just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Friends and fellow musicians have also spoken out, sharing their disbelief and sorrow. Several Colombian rappers, some of whom had collaborated with bking, took to social media to share memories and call for accountability. One wrote, "We have lost a brother. This is not just about music. This is about our right to live, to dream, to create without fear." Their anger reflects a wider frustration that for too long, cases like this fade into statistics, filed away without resolution, leaving grieving families without closure. For bking's family, the news has been shattering. They have had to navigate not only the pain of losing a loved one but also the complicated process of repatriating his body from Mexico, arranging for funeral services, and dealing with media attention in the midst of their grief. Reports suggest that they are calling for a thorough investigation and have vowed to fight until the truth about what happened is brought to light. Their voices join those of countless other families across the region who are demanding more protection for artists and public figures traveling abroad. The tragedy also highlights a broader issue facing musicians in Latin America: the risks that come with touring in areas where violence remains a persistent threat. While some cities are safe and welcoming, others pose significant danger, not just from organized crime but from opportunistic criminals who see traveling performers as lucrative targets. For artists like bking, who often use their fame to inspire change, the risk can be even greater. Their visibility makes them both symbols of hope and potential targets. As investigations continue, questions linger about what exactly happened in the hours between their gym visit and the discovery of their bodies. Were they lured into a trap? Was this a case of robbery gone wrong or something more sinister? Each theory carries its own weight, and until prosecutors release more details, speculation will continue to swirl. What is clear, however, is that the deaths of bking and Jorge Herrera have left a void, not just in the music industry but in the hearts of their fans, families, and communities. Their legacy now rests in the songs they recorded, the shows they performed, and the lives they touched. For many, listening to their music will now be both a comfort and a painful reminder of what was lost. In the coming weeks, vigils are expected to take place in both Colombia and Mexico as fans gather to honor their memory. These gatherings are likely to be emotional, blending sorrow with celebration of the music that made them beloved. Candlelight tributes, murals, and online campaigns demanding justice will likely keep their names alive in the public consciousness. For their supporters, this is about more than mourning. It is about sending a message that artists cannot be silenced without consequence, that their lives matter, and that violence must not be allowed to win.